Lisa, how did you find carnivore?
Oh, thank you, Dave. I kind of knew you might ask that question. How I found carnivore was November 2023. I had a number of health issues that were starting. Well, they weren't just starting, they were making themselves really known. And I had numbness in my hands and my feet. I had skin tags in my armpits. I knew I had high blood sugars. I was I'd done keto about 4 years ago, and I'd kind of fallen off the wagon and gone on to my sugar and carbohydrate addiction. So by November of 2023, I just thought, gosh, I know I need to clean up my eating. And because I'd done keto before 4 years prior, and I was feeling really good on that, I it was YouTube algorithm kind of came in and brought me a few contacts. So probably Dr. Ken Berry was the first one who popped up. And so I started listening to his proper human diet. And I must admit, I thought, oh, I don't know, that sounds a bit extreme. But when he talks about it being, how did our ancestors eat? I thought, actually, that makes sense. So, and he's got a thing called the 90-day challenge. So just trying 90 days of beef, butter, bacon, and eggs in that instance. And it was like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Well, I didn't know if I could do 90 days. I know I love bacon and eggs and butter. So I just thought, all right. So I started. And honestly, within probably like day 4 was rough. So because I was getting off sugar, and that was, in hindsight, I probably could have done that a little slower because that was really rough coming off that much sugar that quickly. So I think slowing that down would have been sensible, but I'm not always known for being sensible. I'm a kind of go in there and go hard. Um, so, um, but what I did notice, apart from the weight, which I was carrying extra weight, things like my low mood, the general aches and pains in my body, um, those other health issues that I was facing, all of those started to resolve really quickly. So certainly by the end of the 90 days, I, my feeling had come back in my hands and my feet. The skin tags and my armpits were starting to go. I wasn't getting thrush anymore. There's probably too much information, but like there was a lot of going on with high sugars, which was dangerous. And so I decided to carry on staying on it, really. I lost and have maintained the loss. So within 6 months, I lost between 10 and a half, 11 kilos. That's around 23 pounds. So I'm only 5'2", 158 centimeters. So extra weight feels like a lot on a little frame. But my mood was improved, my sleeping was better, and it just was a nice, sensible, easy way to eat, really. So that's the short version of, and I've done the intermittent fasting. So I went to 2 meals a day, but I was making sure I was eating really, really well in those 2 meals. I do that in a 5-hour window, and I've pretty much stayed to that, roughly. But
Right. So was it around that 90 days that you decided, well, look, things are getting better. I'm not going back.
yeah, yes. I just thought, well, I could. Oh, well, what? Yeah. So I did try introducing one food at a time, which is again a Ken Berry thing to suggest. Introduce one food at a time, because the other issue I'd been having with my gut leading up to all of that was I was getting extreme bloating and pain after every meal, and I couldn't work out what was setting that off. I was doing the typical sort of, salads and spinach and broccoli and cauliflower, like all of that stuff, right, as well as meat. And so what I did do was I would introduce one vegetable at a time and just notice what my body did. And it turns out that my body, it's the oxalates in vegetables. I love them, but my body does not. So I decided, why would I want to take something that my body's telling me no? But I needed a clean slate to work from, because it was all out of whack. So I couldn't work out what was setting me off. Um, I can eat tomatoes and I can eat blueberries, but I don't, and I can and I do occasionally, but that was an interesting experiment to do, and treating it with a curiosity rather than a shaming, and I'm probably more relaxed. So what am I now? 21 months. I'm more relaxed now in my carnivore than I was back then. But I've stick to the basic principles. I've cut bacon out, um, and not, not
Why
quite.
did you cut bacon out?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just wasn't getting a calling for bacon. I was kind of like, I was asking my body, "What do you want?" And I wasn't getting because before I couldn't get it in fast enough. I don't know. Yeah.
It was just kind of like, what do I feel like? I feel like mince, or I feel like steak or something.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't feel like eating bacon.
Yeah. It seems to be that it's not a religious thing. It's not it. Yeah. I could still eat it, but I'm just not getting that urge to do so. Whereas in the beginning, and also in the beginning of my carnivore journey, I was starving. Like, I literally was so hungry. And I felt it was because my body was catching up on some of the nutrients that it was probably lacking. So I was just learning to listen to my body. When is it hungry? That grumbly feeling in my stomach, oh, that might be that I'm hungry. Because I'd lost touch with my body. That's the truth. And learning when I'm hungry, eating till I'm full, and then not eating again till I'm hungry again. It's just so much simpler way to be.
And so you feel like over the last 20 plus months, you're much more in tune with your body, and you can understand, I'm hungry or I'm bored, and that kind of the difference between.
Yes,
Mm,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that I've had a little bit of a wake up over these few months ago, back in June, is that I was not drinking enough water. So, do you want me to? Should I go into my slightly personal story? I'm happy to share it if it's helpful. Yeah.
sure.
Um, so June this year, I had a real episode of an upset stomach, which had been going grumbling on for weeks. And at this stage, I was pretty much eating bacon, eating lamb or beef, sometimes egg yolks and butter. So there was nothing new in the foods I was eating, but I had a really upset stomach and very noisy digestion, a change in bowel habits, and I continued to lose weight, and I couldn't stop losing weight, and I don't need to lose anymore. And I didn't was deciding whether I would share this. I thought, you know what, if someone can get something useful out of this testimony. Anyway, so it turns out I had parasites, and there's a bit of that, but the reality is I've never done a parasite cleanse. We deworm our dogs and our cats and our horses and our cattle and sheep, and it's all around for all of us. And it horrified me a bit, but I thought, well, this is the truth of what I've got. No wonder I'm feeling lethargic. The inside of the whites of my eyes was really pale, so I wasn't getting any nutrients at all, and also feeling nauseous when I did try to eat. Like, I literally couldn't eat. So I was in a bit of a bind, actually. And fortunately, I've got some good people who in the natural therapy way, and approached them and started a parasite cleanse, a 6-week parasite cleanse with diatomaceous earth and a tincture which was like a magic potion. It had black walnut hull, wormwood, cloves, garlic, and some other stuff that parasites hate. And I'm feeling fantastic. I'm clear. I'm not contagious. So it was a really interesting journey, and one that I guess I just say it is just people be aware that if you feel like you've acquired some of these little ones along the way, maybe get it checked out, or just keep it in mind. Like, it was the last thing I wanted to consider.
So, when you started, when you went to see someone about it and you started taking the tincture and so forth, how long was it before you noticed improvement?
I I also have a Rife machine, like a frequencies Rife machine. So I was blasting them with sound frequencies as well. Uh, I I would say it probably took about 2 weeks for me to start to feel like that my gut was settling down. And one of the really important things, and I'm certainly not an expert in any of this, I know this is a carnivore chat, but is making sure if people are taking on something like this, is that they clear the pathways first to let the toxins go. Is don't just try and get rid of them. Like, you need to free up your gallbladder and all those exit channels. So that's about the extent of knowledge I have. But anyone who's giving a protocol will be able to advise someone properly more than what I can give. And so, yeah, certainly 2 weeks, and staying on it for 6 weeks to capture everything of the cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. And at any stage of that process, did you start to feel like, oh, this is a carnivore doing this to me? Maybe I should go back to my regular way of eating.
Well, I'll do a confessional here. So, because I was so desperate, and I was felt so nauseous at any food, and meat was making me feel really nauseous. I actually was put on to a chicken broth with carbohydrates of potato, carrots, celery, like all parasite cleansing stuff, cloves, ginger, because I just couldn't face red meat. It was like I had morning sickness. I just couldn't do it. So I was on that for about 10 days, and it seemed to help my gut just get through that transition time. But what the interesting thing I noticed, because I've got an addictive personality anyway, is as soon as I started to get carbohydrates and I started to feel better, I wanted more and more and more and more carbohydrates. Like, that addiction kicked off. It was really interesting to notice what my body was. It was going, you want more, have more, have more. And so that was interesting to feel the difference. And so that's why I was on that for about 10 days. And then I just was like, no, I'm better on carnivore. I'm better on red meat and egg yolks. So
Yeah.
that's where I've been, and I'm feeling fantastic again. So that's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can imagine, like, just when you say potatoes there, I can imagine if I had a potato, that would never be enough. It would be like, well, where's the next potato? It's not just about sweet stuff, it's about anything that becomes sugar when you eat it, I guess. Um,
Mm.
wow. So, like, everything's kind of settled down now. You're back to what you were doing before. You're back on the 2 meals a day.
Yes.
Mm. And that's again, that's like beef and lamb.
Yes, I still, my expensive ribeye habit continues, although the prices have been a bit scary here in New Zealand. So I am mixing it up. One thing I've done, because it's been winter here, is I would get beef bones, with a bit of meat on them, but boil them up and make a beef broth, and I would drink that, like just a nice warm drink of a beef broth. And I just found it really nurturing, over those cold times over winter. probably the last thing people in the Northern Hemisphere want to hear about, having hot drinks.
Um, yeah, I've got the air conditioning on behind me.
I've got the heater.
Um, so, um, and like that beef broth, that just forms part of your meals, or is that like a before bed kind of thing, or?
It's to get my fluids up, because that was the other thing. In doing any cleanse, it's really important to really up the fluid intake to keep flushing things through. So I had blood tests taken back in early 2024. So I'd been on carnivore for a number of months, and my kidneys were showing a little bit of sign of stress. There was a bit going on there, and thyroid was showing stress. Well, I had just nursed my dad who passed last year, so there was quite a bit still going on in my life then, and but I knew I wasn't drinking enough fluids, so I was just coming up with other ways, as well as herbal teas, to get my fluids up. That was just another way, and it tastes good, because I, at this stage, sort of 21 months, mostly carnivore, I was needing a bit of variety. Like, there was a little bit of, I wanted to mix things up a little bit. So even a different texture was important, because it just seemed that, anyway, a South African friend makes me some biltong, which is just wonderful. It's just salt and dried beef. It's wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Um, so have any friends expressed interest in the way you're eating? Your South African friend must know about it. If
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Um, I it was when I got sick, back in June. I know a number of them were saying, "Oh, it's probably the meat. There were parasites in the meat." And look, there might have been. I don't know, but there's parasites everywhere. So, and I had people saying, "Well, it's obviously not normal for you to just be eating meat all the time." Like, they were coming in on the negative instead of, and they are friends. So I don't, I wasn't trying to do a crusade and win them over. I don't actually really mind what people eat. Like, it's not normally something we talk about. And I wasn't putting it out really for open discussion. It was just, I'm going through this right now. It was probably more I was using as a teaching moment, that the possibility of people having parasites is there, and maybe to consider, if you're feeling rough, it's another thing to maybe consider. That's all that was. But no, none of my friends I've converted fully over to carnivore. Again, they still look at me when I'm there. Oh, I shouldn't be eating this, and it's like I'm the biscuit police. But I don't really mind. Like, they can do what they like. If I could eat biscuits and cakes and all that stuff and not suffer the effects, I might. But same with alcohol. I can't do that. I can't do moderation. I can't do that. So I'm better to be on an abstinence program, and I feel much better. My body prefers it. So that's why I
yeah,
do it.
I definitely understand the abstinence program. That's me to a T as well.
Yeah.
Um, So I think often when friends are like, "Oh, I shouldn't be eating this in front of you," kind of thing, they do that because they're feeling guilty, but they don't understand that they don't need to feel guilty, because you're not eating that stuff, you've almost moved away from it. You've moved on from that kind of thing, right? So you're not sitting
Mhm.
there most of the time, you're not sitting there like salivating, going, "Oh, I wish I could eat that as well." You're thinking about, well, what we're talking about in the conversation, right?
That's it. I mean, it's. I'm not white knuckling my way through if I see someone else eating a chocolate biscuit. Like, I'm not going, I really wish I could. It's just, I don't even see it as food. My body certainly doesn't see it as food. So it's not as if I even have to put skull and crossbones visually over it. It's just I don't register it as food. It's certainly not nutrition. And then getting curious about what they're doing to get that bliss point of the perfect amount of fats, sugars, and carbohydrates. Like it's done with science. It's really clever, highly addictive, and really hard to get off. So yeah, that's what I do. I just go. It's and I make sure if I'm going into situations, I make sure that I'm well fed and well watered and in a good, healthy spiritual condition. I mean, that's how I approach life these days. Anyway, if I've got any of those hungry, angry, lonely, tired elements that are off in my life, I'm on wobbly ground. So if I deal to those, I just have a softer, easier life, and so do the people around me. So,
Right. Um, I guess though there's probably not as much of that feeling of hangriness that comes over you now as it would have before, right? Because like I feel like the hunger comes on differently when you're on carnivore than it would when you're on a regular diet, right? Like the regular diet hangriness is kind of like you need to eat right now. Just go to the fridge, get whatever you can, even if it's plastic, just eat it. Whereas,
it probably is plastic. Sorry.
yeah, right. But whereas with carnivore, it's more of a gradual build to something. It's like almost like your tummy kind of says to your brain, like, we're a little bit hungry now, or in the next few hours we'll perhaps start to get a bit hungry. You might want to think about going closer to a food source now.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. I was just saying I haven't done a long fast. What happened last year when I was looking after Dad? So my dad was in A&E in hospital, and there was no bed. So we were in A&E for 38 hours waiting for a bed, and I didn't eat all of that time. I was getting hungry by then, but I had enough reserves. My system was working well enough to have me go through that. And I mean, it's not something I would regularly want to do, but I was not in danger of instantly murdering someone because I was so hungry or whatever. It's a slow burn fuel. It's there. The system knows what to do. The body knows how to take care of itself. And under times of stress like that, which if you think about our ancestors, that's exactly what they would do. That's how they would have lived. Like they probably had to run away from things, or So yeah, if we're remembering where we've come from, and a big part of this journey for me has been coming into the wisdom of the body, like really honoring this vehicle that I've been given to carry my soul around. And I was not treating it well. I was putting in poor quality fuel and expecting it to run well. And like I'm 63 now, and when I was in terrible shape and felt older back then than I do now. So especially since I got rid of those little extra passengers I was carrying around, they're not taking all the food. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you mention, you're putting in bad fuel and you're expecting everything to run properly, like when I think back on the way I used to be, like I'd have cup noodles and a bag of Skittles and a Snickers bar and a can of Coke, and it's like, why do I feel so sick all the time?
Yeah. And we can get
And
away with that for a long time, right? Like when some people can. And I certainly abused my body for many, many decades. So yeah, I'm treating it with more reverence these days.
mm,
And there's a softer element about that as well. I think that's being more grateful, because without good health, we haven't got a platform to do anything. It's so important to look after what we've been given. And I was taking it for granted, and I've decided that I'm here to have a good life. I've been given a second chance, probably a third chance of life for various reasons. And now I want to treat it with the respect that it deserves so that I can help other people. I mean, I work in the field now helping people with cravings and addictions and things. It's kind of like taking my life story and going, okay, well, now I'm going to put you to work and I want you to help others. So, and I'm happy to do so. And I'm certainly not, I'm not trained in nutrition or anything like that, but I have the training that I have to help people with, particularly with cravings, because there's a big part of that, when we give up something, our brain chemistry starts to go crazy. It starts to go, you need this now. Like it will up that dopamine, serotonin system of our brain. It's a real thing. So yeah.
And I think when you have cravings, you end up fighting on two fronts because you're fighting on the front of your body is saying, I need whatever it was, like the sugary thing, but you're also fighting against it kind of psychologically because you've got that habitual component to it, or that component where it's like, I'm watching this thing now, or I'm doing this work now. I associate that with eating this particular thing at this time. And so I feel empty not being able to eat at the same time that I'm doing this.
Oh, that's
It's
so
really
true.
tough.
Really tough. And I think that's a really important part. So for anyone starting new on this journey, and this was really important for me, was literally clearing out my pantry, clearing out my house to get rid of those easily accessible. If it's not in the house, I can't eat it. In the house, I could go out or order in, but I need to slow that knee-jerk reaction to doing the behavior or taking the food. So I got rid of all the seed oils out of my house. I got rid of all the sugars. Uh, that was really important early on because willpower doesn't cut it. It's important, like you say, at this time of the day, this is where I do my thing. I just saw a guy on a video yesterday and he had one of those uh, like cat automatic food dispensers that dispenses a little bit of food, but he puts lollies in there like M&Ms or Skittles or something. So he had it time to give him a reward while he was
For
working
himself.
for him. I thought, okay, he's addressing some needs, but probably not the deeper need of what his body's asking for. I just smile because I'm not judging, because that could have been me if I'd been that clever to think that back then.
I think I could never have gone to that point because I can never eat in like small discrete increments. It's just like I'd end up breaking the machine apart and ripping all the Skittles out of it. It's yeah. Which is why I can't digress at any point, because as soon as we discuss the potato, as soon as I have the potato or I have the M&Ms or whatever it is, that's it. It's lights
Mm.
out.
But it also keeps it more simple, do you find? Like in terms of, I don't have to obsess over it because I just know simply my body's reassured that I'm going to feed it really good food and it's going to be so full. It's not hungry, so it's not feeling like it's missing out. It's moved over to that, and I don't feel like I'm missing out. And I think that's the big thing that people who are not on this way of eating, it is that it's not really understanding that food is just a source of fuel. I guess you could look at, oh, well, I'm missing out on all the preparation time in the kitchen. And like I was adding up, like how many cookbooks I had that I never opened, and how much time was spent peeling and sauteing and all of that. And I literally I have so much more time. And the time that I'm not spent with that, I'll go and ground myself and go and pull a few weeds out of the garden, like I'm getting a much healthier balance. I've got 2 grown sons who do not live with me. They like the fact that I have steak, and it's an expensive week, but I love it. They certainly, if they were living here, I think I'd have to take a mortgage or something. But they do enjoy good meat, which is good. I'd love
Yeah.
to get them off the carbohydrates and all that stuff, but they're 20 and 21, so they're not quite ready to realize how brilliant I am yet. That'll come.
And the trouble with your 20s, as we talked about before, with eating all the junk, no matter what you eat in your 20s, you bounce back pretty well. It's yeah. If only you knew in your 20s that what you were eating, you're bouncing back now, but it's going to take a toll later on.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And, they're adults, they're getting on with things. So, and there would have been no telling me for sure. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm pleased I've learned about parasites. I've been recommended to once every 6 months do a cleanse, and that's no great hardship. And it'll be just part of my maintenance. Like you would with a car, you go and get a regular maintenance. I'll do that, and remember to keep my fuel up. My fluids up, and I'm just keen to carry on. I've probably
Yeah.
offended. I've probably offended the woman that put me on the chicken broth and saying you shouldn't be just eating. She doesn't agree with carnivore at all. So I haven't actually told her I've gone back over to carnivore.
All right. She thinks she's still having chicken broth and mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sending her the video. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Shh, don't tell her. So if someone did come to you and say they wanted to give carnivore a try, based on your experience, what advice or tips would you give them?
Mm, it would be useful to know their starting point. So if they're on full-on processed foods, and if that's their diet, I would suggest weaning down on certainly on the sugars, and not trying to go too hard too fast, because there will be a backlash, partly with the brain chemistry screaming out for, you're killing me, what are you doing? But there'll also be just that detoxing of what that stuff that's been in the body. So slowing that down, and if they're keto, sort of going that way, ketovore, so a meat heavy keto in stages, doing it that way may be an easier transition for them. And I also would say it's worthwhile remembering their why. So at the beginning of their journey is to write down how they're actually feeling. Take a photo, write how they're actually feeling, like what are the symptoms, because it could be really easy to forget how bad it was. I've just loaded up a photo onto my personal Facebook of what I looked like before I started my journey. And the response I'm getting from people is like, wow, so that's the convincer, really. I didn't do it for weight per se, but that was one of the benefits. And having a support team. So, there are groups around. Yours is a fantastic resource. I've seen the numbers growing, and I'm really delighted for you and delighted for this community. Was really important for me. Your channel's been really important for me, to hear other people's testimonies, to go, oh, they can do it a day at a time, because it can feel quite lonely, because it can feel quite weird. There's so much advertising trying to not have us live this way. And so having people around you, checking in with people, like saying, actually, I'm having a really tough time right now. I mean, I do that in my recovery journey from addiction anyway. That's really important. And so that sort of same support, I'm happy to be that for people. And get the foods out of the house. that'll be, it's trickier, I guess, if you've got a family who are not on board with what you're doing. So there will be different strategies to cope with that. And listening to people's stories and making up their own mind about how they want to live their life. So I feel like we're all being asked to get back in touch with our wisdom, what our bodies are doing. Like, we've been so disconnected from that for decades, probably. So treating it as a journey, not a destination. So, start to listen and ask your body what it's needing. That's just off the top of my head, but yeah, better to go slowly. I always think of it like a fire. If you put a whole lot of fuel on a fire, it will burn really fast, it will be really hot, but it's not sustainable. But if you can put something on a slow, sustainable, little changes in behavior, and you chunk for success, you go, oh, actually, I got through that day. Oh, I got through that social situation. That way it builds up a trust and confidence. That's another thing, is like, I lost so much confidence and just everything, really. I think because my mood got really hit quite hard with all that sugar. Like, I couldn't think clearly, and now I can. So,
It's a nefariousness of sugar, isn't it? It's like when you have it, it makes you feel so good for a few seconds, but
mm,
then you're left feeling so bad.
I saw some babies on a video yesterday, their first experience of birthday cake. These kids they were they were
Wide-eyed
literally
kind of.
they were lit. I was like, well, there you go. We
Yeah.
associate that with celebration. It starts really, really early. And breast
Mm,
milk is quite sweet. So we are wired for vanilla and sweet right from when we're
right.
babies. So,
Mm,
but when we're babies, we need that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
It's not,
unfortunately, we train ourselves to not get out of that.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lisa, how can people find you online?
I've got a website, is eftserenity.co.nz or NZ. So there is a contact page on there, or if people did want to book an EFT, emotional freedom techniques session to help with tapping, I can teach them that. So all the information is on the page, but if you wanted to send a contact request and we can just have a chat, that's all good too. And I've got a Facebook page as well where I'm starting to build that up slowly. So I don't know if that's of interest to people. I'm just starting to post a few things on there. Is that, I can give you those details to put in the. Yep. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll link to your website and your Facebook in the show notes. Lisa, thank you so much for coming back on and letting us know how things are going. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Dave, and thank you for all you do, and wishing everyone in the community well on their journeys.